my name is Amanda, and I'm an instructor here at Museo Academy, where I teach manga and digital illustration. I'm one of those people who's been drawing since she can remember. I went to grade school, doodles all over the sides of my notes. So it was inevitable that I ended up doing art as a career. Along with teaching here at Museo, I freelance doing my own stuff where I've done illustrations for people. I've worked on some iOS games. I've tabled at conventions where I get to sell my own stuff, which is pretty awesome. Get to meet a lot of people doing that. It is fantastic. So I get to do art pretty much every day for fun and profit. So here's a little bit of what I have done just to give you guys a little bit of insight into what I enjoy. Of course, there is anime and manga. I am one of the manga instructors here, and anime played a big part in my high school life. I met a lot of friends thanks to anime, both watching it and like drawing it during lunchtime. So it holds a very near and dear place to my heart even now. And I mean, I'm still reading some manga and watching some anime, so it's good times. I also am a huge Pacific Rim fan. I will go on about that forever. And fun fact, this piece was actually a tattoo I got to design for a friend, which looks awesome on her. I also really adore D&D. I've been able to be commissioned by people to draw their D&D characters, which is amazing. I've done turnarounds, so sometimes I get to design the character for them based off of a description, or sometimes they already have the character designed, in which case then I get to use that as a reference. So just cool illustration pieces, both digital and also traditional. Copic, I don't get to use too much anymore because most of my work is just done digitally. So it's just easier for me to do stuff on my computer. But I get to use my Copics occasionally, and it's always fun. I love messing with those colors. They come out so vibrant and lively. And next up, I believe, I love character and creature design. So you can see my winged people. I adore them, even though drawing those feathers it's a bit of a pain in the rear end. And a big part of what you'll see in my art is rabbits. I have 2 rabbits of my own named Schrodinger and Heisenberg. They're big and, well, they're not big. They're like 4 pounds and fluffy. And I love them to pieces, and they've shown up in my art ever since I got them. And lastly, here is a demo piece that I did here at Museo for a animation cell project. And I just really love how this one turned out because the greens came out awesome. I got to use watercolor and colored pencil and Copic all together. So it was kind of neat to see all of that come together, along with a fake cell of that little sparrow that was done in acrylic. So there's a little bit of my stuff. I have way more, so I just tried to keep it as a small sampling there. And now we come to the part of the video where I want to tell you about something that helps me make art. And it's something that I bring up in my classes a lot of the time. Because my background is in animation, I have a lot of focus in my own art on characters and movement and just kind of just spatial awareness in my work. So we're going to talk about shapes, and shapes can be used for anything. I'm going to slide over here to Clip Studio Paint, and what I'm going to show you, it's not necessarily digital based. I'm just going to be using Clip Studio Paint here because I have my tablet and it's easy. So, but what I'm going to talk about is universal. You can do it traditionally, digitally, doesn't matter. But moving on, we all know our shapes. That is, you know, if I had a brush that would show up on my canvas, we have squares, we have triangles, we have circles, we have all these flat shapes. Now these, we can draw anything with these shapes, but looking at the shapes as I draw them now, they're pretty flat. And when you want to do animation, you want to make something, it's the illusion of life. So we want to give it some sort of depth. And to do that, we're just gonna make these into 3D shapes, which is super, super easy. From the box, we can make the cube, just give it a front, give it a side, give it a top, sorry, give it a side. And there we have our 3D cube. For a triangle, we have the front And we have the side. And for the circle, well, circles just kind of look flat unless you do something to them. So circles, if they're in my art, I'll usually do these kind of crosshair things. So now it looks a little more 3D because it has the surface detail. What I'm going to be mostly using next is the squares, because squares are great. They have a front, they have a side, they have a top. It's super awesome to get kind of that spatial orientation. So I'm going to move over here a little bit. And what we're going to do is we're going to draw a person out of cubes and probably cylinders. Actually, let's add cylinder here. Cylinder also very important. We have a top and then we have the circular part. Cylinders, they also join the shape club. So if I'm drawing a person, I will start by using squares for the head. I'm just going to do this. In a lot of how to draw books, you'll see also the head drawn like this with a circle, crosshairs, and like a chin area. That is also totally, totally fine. I do that too. When I'm doing something that deals a little more with perspective or I really want to push the action, I might switch to squares just again because they give me a front, a side, and a top, and it helps with that spatial orientation. So we have a head. Now we're going to do a neck. I mean, we have a little bit of a neck, and we're trying to do this super quick. So if it's not exact, it doesn't matter. We can erase it, we can redo it, who cares? And so for the torso, we're going to do also a rectangle, kind of going down. Well, not the whole torso. I'm going to do it for the rib cage. So we'll kind of go like this. I'm not really going to talk about proportions here. This is mostly just building up the body with shapes. Proportions and anatomy are a whole separate conversation. So from this, I'm just going to break and draw. Actually, what do we want this guy doing? Let's do running or walking. So we want to have him leaning forward a little bit. Him, her, them. We're going to draw them. So we're going to change this so it's more of a leaning forward box. Good thing about the boxes is we can curve them like that. We can twist them even. So maybe we have a top side of a box that kind of curves down. And then, yeah, so we can like twist this box a little bit. That looks a little bit awkward, but you get what I'm laying down. So from there, we're going to have a little bit of a spine because, you know, you kind of have that space between your rib cage and your hips where all your guts live. And then we're going to draw the hip box. And honestly, your hip bone actually kind of looks like a big rounded box. So this works great. Now I have my head, my torso, and my hips, and that's a lot of the art already done for me. And I think it's posing looking pretty okay. So now we're going to get to the running bit. I got to erase this just so I know I have room. Going back to my background in animation, because animation worries about movement a lot, I want to know where my joints are. So I'm going to draw my joints just as little circles. So we have shoulder joints here, and we have hip joints down here. So I'm going to start with the legs and then do the arms last, just because the arms are kind of, they're kind of the last thing to worry about as far as like movement goes, because the body and the legs are going to be the most important part of this piece, because it'll show the locomotion of the character, if they're grounded or not, if they're in balance, all that jazz. So we're going to have, before I do proper nice shapes for the legs, I'm just going to do little stick figures. So I know my legs are positioned properly. So we'll just do this. Yeah, so we'll have like one foot coming forward, one foot going back, as one does when they run. Let's do this. I want to keep that knee mostly underneath the guy because he, you know what, he doesn't really need to be running with his legs stuck straight out to the side. So now that I have that, I'm going to go in and use cylinders. You could also use little rectangles for this as well to give yourself the front, the side, and all that. But I'm just going to use cylinders for this. Ooh, I think I made that leg too long. It feels too long. So we have the knee joint there, and then the leg going down. Upper and lower leg are kind of similar in size. So we're just going to do that. And then feet are complicated. They're complicated shapes. So I'm just going to split it up into a heel, a little box for the heel, and then a wedge for the toe. So it's pretty simple, but we're going to work with that. Now, this other leg, I still don't like the position of, so I'm going to redraw it a little bit. And then actually, yeah, we'll just have this out there. So because we want to make sure his leg doesn't look like it's sticking straight out to the side, we need to think a little bit in perspective. It's going back in space. And as things go back in space, they get a little smaller. So we're going to make this cylinder a little bit smaller as it goes back to hopefully give us the illusion that that leg is going back. Now, same thing here. We want to make sure that this leg is getting a little bit smaller as it goes back in space. Actually, you know what we should do? Make this leg a little bit bigger as it comes forward so we can emphasize that change in space. And again, that wedge shape and the box for the foot. And you can even split up the foot in 3 different shapes, like the wedge shape for the heel, well, the box shape for the heel, a wedge for the center part, and kind of the pyramid shape for the toes even. So I'm just keeping it simple with 2 different shapes here. And then we have the back foot. We have the heel joint there. And we're going to see a little bit of the back foot, back heel, and then that wedge shape of the toe. So this guy is just like sprinting because his legs are going everywhere. Now for the arms, like I said, arms were last because, I mean, look at the rest. We just did a whole human body. So now all we have to worry about is those arms. So when we're running, our legs and arms move opposite of each other because this character's left leg is going backward. We want their right arm, because their left leg is going backward, their left arm is going to be going forward. I had to think about that a second. So we want to have the elbow joint up to the wrist. And there is our arm. And we're going to draw cylinders here. Again, we're not really focusing on anatomy, but we can see, I can at least provide a little quick tip on that. And why I leave the arms to last on a humanoid character is because the arms, it's easy to measure out the arms when you already have the rest of the body drawn. Your elbow is about waist height and your hands will fall about mid-thigh. So long as I keep that in mind, my arms should be proportionate because I already drew the body, so I have my guide. So hands also complicated, but since he's running, I'm just gonna imagine that he's kind of got his hands into little fists. So I'm just gonna like draw this box shape and yeah, there's a thumb over there. So we're gonna work on this arm. For the right arm is going backwards. Now the right arm could cause some trouble because I think from this angle, you may not even see the right arm, or maybe you see a little bit here because it's like imagining it. I imagine it's going right back into space there. And we honestly may not see much of it. Like maybe just a little bit of like the held fist here, just so we can see a little bit of it, because if we don't see any of it, that could make our figure look a little funky. So there we go. Yeah, I'll put it right there. And when you have something that's behind a character, it's always nice to draw a little bit through the figure. So that's why I kind of mark it out where I think the elbow might be as this figure swings it back. Again, as they swing it back, like we could even curve the torso a little bit to like mimic this left shoulder coming forward and the right shoulder going back. So, and that can help us emphasize that run motion too. And now we have the figure, yay! And what's great is you have a front and back and side because you use boxes. So you can go through and like add a center line to the face box, add an eye line, and then like draw little things. You have your nose here. You know, your ears are on the side of the head, so you can draw that. And then you can just kind of like curve everything out to make it look a little less robotic. And I mean, you can see these sketches get a little bit messy, but that's okay. You can always erase a little bit and then you have your figure. And what's also really great is drawing those boxes goes really quickly. I mean, with practice, it goes really quickly. And it's like all you have is boxes. So if you didn't like how it came out, no worries. It's just a bunch of boxes. You didn't spend all the time putting detail and stuff into it. So when in doubt, it's really nice to start just with really simple shapes to build up the form of whatever you're drawing. And this will work for human characters, monster characters, animal characters, objects even. I mean, a lot of objects in your household have these basic shapes already. So whatever you want to draw, go back to shapes and you can draw them out. And if you're not good at it right now, just draw a bunch of cubes. In college, I had to draw 100 teapots of different types. Each one had to be different. So yeah, learning art is just a lot of repetition. I've drawn a lot of cubes in my time and teapots and lines. So it's all just practice. And hopefully this might help some of you guys think in shapes, think in those 3D shapes. If it's complicated, figure out how to break it down into these basic shapes. How do you break down your hand into basic shapes? Palm is a box. Fingers can be little boxes or cylinders, depending on what you want to do. I hope that was helpful. Thanks for hanging out and watching. And I should probably end on a full view of me. So thank you so much. Hopefully we'll see you at Museo. Thanks.